Hello students and welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In this lecture, we will be discussing a very important question that whether Europe is preparing for war. So we'll see what are the reasons that this kind of question is there in front of us and is this actually the case or not. So first things first, let's get started with respect to the news as to why this particular question is in news in the first place. So what has happened is the Prime Minister of France. The Prime Minister of France has a plan for distributing a manual. Now, what kind of manual are we talking about? A survival manual. So this survival manual is planned to be distributed to each and every household in France. Now, what this survival manual will be? See, survival manual can be with respect to disaster management, etc., natural disasters, man-made disasters, earthquake, etc., etc. But this particular manual is going to be with respect to how to respond to an invasion as well as prepare for potential threats. So plan for invasion of what? Invasion of one country by another country. So plan for invasion and prepare for potential threats. Now what kind of threats are we talking about? Again, with respect to other country attacking another country. So with respect to the threats, that includes armed conflict. So armed conflict is not the civilian armed conflict that we are talking about, but across the border armed conflict is what we are talking about, including nuclear attack as well as natural disasters. So natural disasters may be one outlier over here because everything else is clearly a man-made disaster, and not just a man-made disaster but specifically an attack of one country on another country. Now this is what the thing is all about. So since this Prime Minister of France is planning to distribute such survival guidelines or survival document or survival manual that you may talk about, that is why the question is that is Europe preparing for war? So we'll discuss that whether it is actually the case or not. Few important things to announce over here is the regular batch of Legacy IAS Academy will start on 17th of April as well as 12th of May. So two batches are starting very close to each other because that's the optimum time that you require to prepare for the upcoming UPSC, that is the 2026 and beyond. Now these regular classes will be from Monday to Friday, two sessions, one morning session of 10 to 1 and then afternoon from 2 to 5 p.m. Each and everything will be comprehensively covered. Your GS, your essay, your prelims, your mains, even up to the personality test stage, the prelims test series, mains test series, current affairs. So it's basically a one-stop solution for your entire UPSC preparation. Now this regular batches is going to work for full-time aspirants, but there are aspirants who might be working professional or who have college and school commitments, so on and so forth. So for them, there is a weekend batch as well, which will be there on Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 5 p.m. Now, the coverage, the provision will be holistic in both the batches, depending upon whether you are a full-time aspirant or a working professional or having commitment elsewhere. You can subscribe for regular or the weekend batches. Now, one very important thing for the upcoming prelims aspirant specifically is the All India Prelims Test Series that Legacy IAS Academy has come up with, subsequent to which you will get your All India rankings, of course, instant solution, explanation, etc., as well as the discussion lecture. So make sure that you take advantage of this free mock test, All India mock test. Now, coming back to the news, why such a step? Why is the Prime Minister of France or France in general wanting to take such a step? Has there something that has happened? Yes, of course, there are certain things that are going on since quite a long time. What is that? The Ukraine-Russia conflict, for example, is going from a long time. That's point number one. Point number two, it does not seem to end, even though USA is now becoming an intermediary to stop it. That is there, but still Russia is on the aggression. And if you look at, if you consider the world map, it's not that France is bordering Russia. Of course not. Russia is bordered by Ukraine. After Ukraine, you will have another couple of countries buffer and then France is there. So of course the buffer zone is created, but still France wants to be prepared. Now what can be the reason for that? See, first of all, more the number of countries between such an aggressor and your country, the better it is. So Ukraine was one such country, but in Ukraine invasion is already there. So out of 3 countries which could have acted as a buffer country, 1 country is gone. So only 2 buffer countries are remaining for France. That is one thing. Second, it is not the time of First World War or Second World War wherein majorly the wars were fought on the ground with military tanks, this, that, drones and all were not thought of. Nuclear attacks were not as if like each, almost every other country is having nuclear weapons, and threat of nuclear attack was not that high as it is today. So even if you are so far off, still you can have certain threats which might not be available previously. Now, is it too early that we are thinking such kind of a possibility is there? Again, to answer that question, you cannot wait for things to go completely out of control to prepare yourself or to try to address that thing. The sooner that you address, the better it is. That is point number 1. But point number 2, if you start preparing in this way, probably you are also anticipating, then there can be a doubt in the minds of the aggressor that probably behind the scenes you might also be planning certain attacks. So the aggressor might get more aggressive as well. So all these dilemmatic situations are presently present in the entire Europe, not just France. We'll understand why I'm saying the entire Europe and not just France. So why such a step? The development comes amid the rising tensions in Europe and a growing Russian threat. So the major player of threat is Russia over here. Now this French government, however, so this is what we are assuming, this is what the world is assuming, this is what the world is saying. However, the Russian government has denied that. In fact, they have clarified that manual is not directly linked to Russian military aggression. It is just that we want to be prepared. And of course, no government is going to accept directly that we are doing this because of XYZ country's aggression to infuriate the other country, because that will be sort of putting a blame directly on the other country. However, it is not completely to deny that that cannot be the possibility, but basically there are various possibilities. One such possibility is, of course, the Russian aggression. And not just that, just some time back, the president of France as well had talked about things related to it. He talked about the need to strengthen France's security strategy amid the ongoing Ukraine-Russian conflict. That is one. Secondly, the shift in US support. So what shift in US support you are talking about? So when Russia-Ukraine conflict was going on, so USA was supposedly on the side of Ukraine, and it was supposed that USA will side for Ukraine. USA might also help militarily and in other ways, and it actually did. It provided Ukraine with wartime supports, personnel, machineries, etc. But what has happened after the election of Donald Trump as the president of USA has sort of reduced the support in the sense that it is going on to completely stop it. How can you say that? Because USA is now wanting a complete stop or end to this Ukraine-Russia conflict. So much so that USA is sort of muscling in or nudging in or sort of in indirect manner forcing Ukraine to stop this fight which is ongoing and trying to broker peace. But the peace is happening at a situation where Ukraine does not want to back out. Ukraine's leaders do not want to back out. Ukraine's leaders rather want support from NATO as well as USA, but USA is no longer willing to provide that and says that the only way now is to stop the war. But if you stop the war, what happens? Whatever invasion Russia has done, can you guarantee that Russia will go back? So what will be the terms of this peace? So on and so forth is quite undecided, and it seems like USA is siding with Russia. If at least not siding with Russia, it is definitely not siding too much with Ukraine anymore. So that is what is meant by the shift in US support. So when US earlier was supporting Ukraine and now is shifting its support, who is to say that it will not do the same with respect to any other NATO country in the future? At the same time, you cannot rely on Russia, as a result of which you have to create your own capabilities. That is very important. So he stated that France must equip itself better, of course, to ensure peace and confront the Russian threat. We should not be dependent on USA or any other country, but self-help is the best help. He also stressed upon the fact that USA may not always be a reliable partner, which is very true. They should have understood it before, but now they are understanding. Earlier they did not. See, India have understood that way before. Why we were able to? Because probably we are an Asian country, so the biasness against the Asians, against India was always there. This is a first world country, developed country, so probably they thought that we are similar, we are same, we are like brothers, so we can help each other, the same race or whatever you may call it, the whites, or so on and so forth. There might be so many reasons for these countries to not get to understand that, which they are understanding now. Now this initiative, now I was saying that it is not just France, but not the entire European Union, but of course the other countries in Europe as well, because this initiative that is being taken by Russia is in sync with the actions taken by other NATO countries like Finland, Sweden, as well as Norway. So this is not something new which is happening. Now, what does this manual include? There are 3 parts to manual, first, second, and third. The first part includes advice on how to protect yourself and the people around you. Part 2 consists of dealing with what to do if the threat is imminent. That means it is about to happen, then what you should do, along with list of emergency numbers, radio channels, and a reminder to close the doors and windows of your houses. So these basic things are also mentioned, along with emergency numbers, radio channels for updates, so on and so forth. The third part deals with how to get involved in defending your community, including signing up for reserve units or firefighting. Reserve units of army, take part. You are not a member of army, but still register yourself and take part in the army. Right. So these are the things that will be included. If you want to go for further detail, it also talks about households should have certain survival kit. It should have 6 liters of water, bottled water, a dozen of tin cans of food. Basically, your packaged food is what you're talking about. Batteries, flashlight in case of power outages, stock of essential medicine supplies such as the paracetamol for headache, fever, etc. Compresses. What are compresses? Compresses are the things that is used to suppress the bleeding of the wound, and saline solution. Now, saline solution basically works as an antiseptic and can be applied on the wounds to cure them, in order to ensure it does not blacken up, it does not become poisonous, so on and so forth. So these are the things that is mentioned in the kit, which is a survival kit. So there is a survival manual which mentions that people need to create survival kit, which should consist of all these things. So basically, we can say that France is preparing for a war-like situation in the coming future. Now, whether that happens or not remains to be seen, because USA is in talk with Ukraine as well as Russia to stop the aggression of Russia, but maybe at the cost of some of the land of Ukraine, which might be lost. So let's see what the future holds. Thank you.